My name's Andrew Lossman. Florida native. I'm almost 28 years old, and I make art with fireworks.
Awesome. Now, I understand that your art with fireworks has a name. What's the name that you have for it?
Name I ended up finding for it a couple of years ago was explosionism. Very indicative of a lot of the other series or styles of art. Your impressionism, pointillism, surrealism, explosionism. It's basically, and this would also carry on to any other artist that makes any form of artwork with any form of explosion.
Describe to us what explosionism art is. Like kind of what do you do?
Well, for me and my area, when I created explosionism almost 4 years ago, basically what I ended up finding a way to do is I wanted to make spatter artwork, but completely different than anything else that I had ever seen. So for me, as I make my artwork with all various types of firecrackers, bottle rockets, M1000s, mortars, and pretty much anything that makes a loud boom.
Have you had any close calls?
Not necessarily.
No?
Every once in a while, maybe an ember will light off another firecracker that's in a pile next to me, and it goes off without me knowing, or I'll light one off, forgetting to keep an earplug in. So it's like trying to put my ear in my finger, or my finger in my ear, last second before it goes off. And then the occasional, pretty much I get burned every time.
Talk to us about what is a live demonstration and how it works, and kind of help us feel what happens during that time.
Well, during the live demonstrations, I literally actually just started doing these this year. So I've done 3 live shows. One was here at Lakeland TV. Another one was a couple weeks ago at Tony Studio B. During those live shows, I'll do anywhere from 2 to 5 pieces live. And basically it's probably about 10 times quicker than my actual process with everything as far as doing a planetary piece, landscape piece, or what have you. So I usually try and get the crowd interacted as well. I have a finale that I do with a strip of over 100 that I do at once. And I get the crowd interacted as far as that goes with having them pick out the colors that they want to have exploded onto it. And it's completely unique, and it's extremely, it's done in 3 seconds right before their eyes.
Yeah. No, I think the other day we were talking about how there's paint involved with it, and there's like a splatter. Kind of describe to me again about that, what happens when
as far as the actual process. Basically what I found a way to do was partially control the explosion by way of different variables, to where I suspend the firecracker above the canvas depending on the thickness of the paint, angle, distance, and the power or the strength of the firecracker that I'm using, all determined as far as the end result. So I can basically get it down to about 60-70%. The actual final form, the actual spatter itself is completely unique in itself. No matter how many times I try and recreate a piece, it's never the same.
Never the same. So in your mind, whenever you're creating a piece, are you actually, do you kind of envision what it's going to look like at the end? And Usually, and does it usually come out that way? Or
pretty much, yeah, for the most part. I strive so much. I don't like scrapping pieces, even in lieu of experimentation. I usually like to experiment, but still within my own realms, because whatever I create, I still want to like, and obviously somebody else will probably still like it and want to take it home. But I strive for perfection so much that I usually, still experiment. But yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Tell us the day that you remember that comes to your memory about when you first thought about doing explosionism art.
Okay. September 11th, 2011, 6:30 in the afternoon. I was after work. A previous boss, I used to work for an art gallery. He gave me a little 11 by 14 canvas, and I had whatever little paints and spray paint and other things that I had. And I got this idea to kind of do a spatter artwork painting, but kind of completely different. So I was like, well, let's see what happens if I put paint on the firecracker and do it that way. I ended up having thousands of firecrackers. This is 2011. 2 years prior to that, my brother passed away. It was my older brother, and one of the many belongings and everything that I had gotten from him was this box of thousands and thousands of firecrackers, and the type of ones that are in the little 12 packs. You basically, I would take those out individually, and you're working with 1 second fuses. really quick. And I started just playing around with those and created my first piece that week. I think I got out and got a few other paintings, and by the time I got to my third one, I realized how it resembled a Hubble photograph of the Milky Way. And I ended up selling that piece and kind of took off with space from there on out. And I've loved space since I was a kid, so that's been my main focus and kind of demographic for the past few years is, everything space.
Right on. Now, as far as like, where would you say that you see yourself now as an artist? Have you met your markers? It's a beginning art. Are you midway? Tell us
in a way, I've met my markers. It's really hard to judge when you're kind of up and coming and you're really trying to. This is so different than a lot of any other artists that I know and other professional artists that I know. But I've done honestly fairly well as a professional artist. I've created over about 130 paintings in the past 4 years. It'll be 4 years this September. And I basically have sold about 90 of those, anywhere from simple small pieces from $20 to $30 on to pieces that are 500. Okay. At the beginning of this year, I had 2 commissions per month for the first 3 or 4 months, which was on point. And so it's at least just continually growth, and also if it hasn't been growth in sales, it's been growth in productivity and growth in subject matter. Right. I just started breaking out of space and started doing more landscapes and trees and things. Okay, all right.
How's the landscape and trees coming along?
Fun. Is that? Yeah, I started working on 4-foot panels, and so the main influence for that was a cherry blossom tree. And so I ended up spending about 160 individual explosions just to do all the blossoms on that tree throughout the entire branches.
Wow.
Yeah. So.
And you have? I'm assuming that was sold.
This one is it's fairly new, so it's at Tony's Studio B at the moment.
Okay, we'll have to get some footage for that.
Yeah,
that'd be awesome.
Yeah.
All right, where do you see yourself? Let's say 5 years from now. Where do you see yourself?
In 5 years, I'm looking to, ideally. I keep searching on Google consistently to see as far as any other artists who are doing anything similar, and I can't find it. I know of 2 other artists who make some form of artwork with fireworks, but nothing in the same realm as what I do. Within 5 years, I'd like it to be one of those things you see come across your Facebook feed as far as this guy makes art with firework, or I see that stuff pop up all the time from tons of different artists of all different backgrounds and all different types of unique mediums and styles. But I think my main deal is I'd like to be doing larger live performances and have my artwork up in at least a dozen or more galleries throughout different countries.
Now you say larger live performances. Just, if you could take it over the top, had sponsors saying, do it up the way you want to do it, I've got the bill on it, what would that be? Kind of describe to us what that would be. I know you've got to have thought about that at some point.
Well, I'm planning that at least for this upcoming New Year's Eve to see if I can, as far as advertising that I'm for hire for doing live shows. I'm putting together 3 different platforms for that, but one of the largest, most elaborate platforms is a new addition to explosionism that I just started doing, which is using mortars. So the ones for all your holiday events that shoot into the sky and make a massive boom and a lot of lights and everything. So I'll put a bunch of paint on this, make this apparatus with the mortar and blow it up, and I have my canvases set out on the corners, or basically in a box, and blows the entire thing up and sends it scattering everywhere. So usually between 1 and 3/4 mortars, I can get a good, very large array of different spatter and layers and things.
And during that time, are you still?
I'm 50 feet away. It's very dangerous.
Very dangerous. Well, even in like adjusting your paint in the direction that you're still envisioning what it should look like.
Absolutely.
Even with the mortars.
And I'm a kinetic learner anyway, so it's with the last time a couple weeks ago I went out and did the first 4 paintings. They're 2-foot by 4-foot MDF boards, and I ended up going through 10 mortars with that because I had a couple different methods that I was thinking that were going to work and ended up not working. And one of the main ones was the one that I'm going to end up sticking with is having the vials and everything like that around the as far as aiming, where everything is going to go, as far as if I'm going to set up all four or just in these two, where I want the white to go, where I want my red to go, and just basing the actual, tons of different things as variables as far as that go into theoretically controlling the explosion to do what you want, or forcing the explosion out of a certain side or what have you.
All right. Well, you're from Lake. I want to say you're from Lake. You live in Lakeland, Florida.
Yeah.
What do you think? What do you think could improve our art scene in Lakeland?
Really, actually having an artist network. I can't tell you how many times there's been tons of different art events and different things that have gone on either downtown or likewise or Dixieland that I'd never heard of, and I'm fairly embedded in the art scene here, and I know tons of artists, musically inclined, and also and illustrators and painters. But as far as knowledge about it, the things that are actually going on, a street team, email list, and anything.
Hub of some
exactly,
type.
yeah. Artist guild, whatever.
Okay.
And honestly, if I had more time, if I could do explosionism full time, I'd devote more time to doing an artist guild here in Lakeland, getting everybody's information. I think it's really that, and I think there's this stigma that Lakeland doesn't really have an art scene, but it's really not going to have an art scene unless you actually start doing something with it. I know tons of artists, or people who are just great illustrators for whatever reason, who don't have the confidence to get out there and show their work, and they've got a plethora of artwork that they can show and sell. And for whatever reason, there's kind of this missing link there. And the only time you can really kind of even get close to that would be like the Polk Museum of Art's Art Crawl in November. So I attended that last year. I did fairly well. I didn't place first, second, or third, but that's fine. And
but you got your name out.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Right.
and that's the second year they've been doing it, and they've been doing Mayfair for 14 years, but it attracts a specific crowd. We talked about that yesterday, and yeah. So I really think it just takes information or a lot of people just getting out there and doing something about it. Really.
Any words of advice for aspiring artists?
There's, if you think you suck, you're wrong. There's really no wrong way of doing art. It's your own soul's expression put into tangible form. So whatever you end up creating, you, of course, even on your own mind or anything else with your body, your talents, it only gets better if you try. It's one of those things where, you're always going to be your worst critic. There's certain pieces that I, sometimes are like, you know what I mean? But if I have somebody else who wants to, pay $150 for it because I absolutely love it, that's fantastic. And I knew that would, even though it might not be my favorite, it's still one of those things where there really is no wrong way of doing it. You just got to keep doing it.
Right on. How can people contact you?
You can contact me through my Facebook for any commissions or any pieces that are on my Facebook that are for sale. Either that or directly 863-614-5567. Those are the two best ways to reach me, and I'm very punctual when it comes to getting back to somebody if I don't answer.
And what's your Facebook?
It's Facebook Explosionism. So that's explosion with an ISM, one word.
Very good. Thank you very much, sir.
Cheers, thank you.